Hi, welcome to another lesson. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at Node.js, Node Express, and mongodb to build an e-commerce API for a website or an application. The tools that we are going to need for this lesson are the following. Number one, we are going to need Node.js. Yes, when you download Node.js, we are going to have access to every other packages that we require. Then we will need mongodb and then an editor. Maybe probably we'll be using, for the purpose of this class, VS Code. Okay, so let's get straight into the how do we get all these applications. The first one is to get Node.js. Just open your browser, type Node.js download. Here you will see nodejs.org website, and then you can go ahead and click on any of this link. Let me click the first one. Then it will take me to how do I want to run it. We have different node versions. You can see here this is the version 20.17 long-term support. Then we have some other old ones. This one has not been released, so because it doesn't have the long-term support, we may not use it for now. Let's use the one with long-term support. Then if you like, you can use 18 or whichever one you want to use. Then on what? On Windows, using what? How do we want to run it? Well, what I will suggest we do here is by specifying that we are running it on Windows and that it is a pre-built installer we want. We are not using Node Package Manager. We are using pre-built installer so that we are running the version of Node.js on Windows, and our system operating system is 64-bit. You can see that this version has both 64-bit and 32-bit. How would you know which one to download from your system? If you go to your browser, like if you go to your folder explorer like this, you right click on this PC, you will see the information about your system, and here you see system type 64-bit operating system, and it's a 64 base processor. So this is what makes me know that okay, what we are downloading is 64. Then you click on download. After the download, you install Node on your system. You can see it's downloading now. It's just 25 MB. If I run that one time, it is done. If I open it, then it's going to walk me through the installer, checking for space requirement on your system, and then it is going to continue by next until you finish installation. So I have installed it already. I may not, you can see the state of installed Node.js on your system. Accept the license. You click on next. It's asking for the space, and then you want to add to path and all that. That's how you click on next until you are done. So I have installed Node on my system. If you want to know whether you have Node or not, open your system, type cmd to open your command prompt, and type node dash v. This will tell you the version of Node that you have. Then let's move on to MongoDB. Likewise, if you open your browser, you type download MongoDB, you see this different website bringing up. You can choose this first one, which has the MongoDB community server download. If I click on this, it's going to take me to where I will download MongoDB. One thing to notice about MongoDB installation is to take note of the so here, okay, this one too has a way, this is on Windows 64-bit and the package is MSI. So here you click on download. So this will also download MongoDB for you. So one thing to notice when you are installing MongoDB is to enable install Compass so that you wouldn't have to install that separately. What do I mean by that? Compass is an interface for a database, your MongoDB database. So if you want to have something that you want to use to interact with your database, database is a service application. It doesn't really have an interface, so you use MongoDB Compass to access the interface. So make sure you check that says install MongoDB Compass together with your MongoDB. Once you have done that, you are good to go. The only thing you may need to do after the installation, if you are using Windows, what you need to do is that you have to go to your C drive and then have a folder called data. Inside the data, have a folder called DB. If you did not do this, if you are using Windows, there may be a possibility that your MongoDB database may not start very well. And another thing is that you need to, if you come to your command prompt, close this. If you come to your command prompt and you type mongodb, you press enter and you get an error. This is not an error, it's starting the MongoDB. You can see it running. You can see it has started running. If you did not get something similar to this and you have an error, then you may have to go back to that folder and create these two inside your local disk C here, your C drive. If you are using Windows, you have to create that data and DB directory. Once you are done with that, then you can now open your Compass. If your Compass is installed, it's going to open by itself. But if you don't have Compass, then you may have to, okay, so this is it, MongoDB Compass. You may have to install the Compass separately by going to your Google. If you don't have it, maybe by chance you couldn't install the Compass, don't worry, let MongoDB install. You can always download the DB Compass on its own. Just type MongoDB Compass download. You can see that you are not alone. Many people have encountered that. You download the MongoDB Compass and install, if you couldn't install it together with the MongoDB application. Once you have done this, the next thing is to go to download our editor. In this case that we are using Visual Studio Code, just type VS Code here, download, press enter, it will take you to the Visual Studio website where you download the Visual Studio code. So you download the version of your operating system as we did for others, the Node and the MongoDB. You download and execute to run on your system. So what to take note of when you are installing VS Code, let me search for installation. Okay, here you see a guide on how to do it, but what I want you to take note of whenever you are installing it is what are the things to check when you get to this point. When you get to this point, what are you supposed to check and what may not be necessary for you to check? Let me tell you, make sure you check add to path. Make sure you check open in Explorer mode, but don't check associative files. Don't associate all your files with the Visual Studio Code, so that each file will have its own icon separately. So that is that on how to install the MongoDB. So if you have Compass running now, then you can go ahead and check it out. So I have this now. I have a local connection here on it, but you can create a new connection and specify your connection like this. It is to be given to you. If you want to, this one is connecting to the entire server. If you connect, it will connect. Now it could connect because I have started my Compass. I have started my MongoDB using the command line, and I have created a folder called data and DB. That is why I can go ahead and create connect to the MongoDB. Alright, so we have installed our notepad, the MongoDB Compass. We have installed Visual Studio Code. Let's begin with our application. So the first thing we are going to do is to create a folder. Remember, if you have been watching our tutorial, you will see that we usually create our project inside Git so that we can push our application online immediately as we are working. So I'm going to start my GitHub desktop, create a project right there, and begin my work. So with this, I'm going to okay, so the Git desktop is coming up, but rightly before it opens, we can just see it here, because whatever project we create is going into the document GitHub, and then here are my projects that is I created with the Git before. You can see some of the repository that I have. So I want to create a new repository on my hard drive. And what's the repository name? I'm going to call it NodeCommerce. Description: an e-commerce with Node. So yes, we initiate the readme. He's putting it inside the GitHub. git ignore, we're going to select node so that it will ignore everything at once. Let me just come here, node. Okay, so license, let's leave it as it is. Great. So it has created a repository for us locally on our local. When we push, it's going to also create it online. So like I told you that we already have a place where this is going. Now that our project has been created, we look for where it is, and the project folder has been created. So the next thing for us to look at where it is and start working. So I'm going to minimize this. The project is here, NodeCommerce. This is the git ignore, the readme, and the other files. So the next time is to open our. Now let us open to our Visual Studio Code. From here, I will right click. So far you check all those things that I asked that you should check while installing your Visual Studio Code. Remember, I said you should check all the checkboxes right here. This is it. Check it. This is create desktop shortcut. Yes, let it create desktop shortcut. Add to path. Add with open code in Windows Explorer file context menu. Add with open code action with Windows Explorer directory context menu. So you can check everything here, but the one that I may not advise that you check is this register code as an editor for supported file types, because it's going to change all your files that Visual Studio Code can open to the icon of Visual Studio Code, which you may not like. So you can leave that part alone and check every other one. So after that, we can now open our project in the directory. So once you right click, you will see the open with code. This is our file context menu. So when we do that, it's going to open our Visual Studio Code and be inside the directory. And for those of you who are not using Visual Studio Code, if you are not using it, you can just open your command prompt in that same directory by going through this method. If you come here, let me see if I can close some things. Okay. If I come here and then I type cmd right here, press enter, it's going to open command prompt, and the command prompt will be inside the project folder. Then you can begin to do every other thing we want to do here. So how do we start our project? We have done with the setup. We've created our folder, the project folder, and set it into Git. So now our Visual Studio Code is showing and pointing into the NodeCommerce directory. The next thing is to start our project, which we are going to be discussing in the next lesson. Thank you.